All right, I'm going to stop the share of our sponsor slide and I'm going to get started, I believe, just to make sure that we're staying on time today. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our first live virtual lunch and share program of 2021 with the Society of Professional Women. I'm Nicole Stevenson. I am the director of the SPW program at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. And as you know, this has been a very challenging time for many individuals and companies, not only in our own community, but around the nation and the world. I'm a very proud member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really proud to be a small part of the efforts that we've all been working really hard to accomplish, my colleagues and I. And we're going to continue doing everything that we can to be a strong resource and an advocate for everyone. SPW would not be possible without the continued support of our members and most of all our sponsors. So you saw in the beginning our screen, and I'm going to share that one more time for you so that you can visualize our sponsors. They have the same mission that we do to accelerate and expand the influence of women leaders of all professions and generations, strengthen our business community, and support the region's nonprofit organization. These companies demonstrate a commitment to gender equity and diversity. Please support these businesses whenever possible. So, let's get started. We were thrilled with our first trademark event last month featuring best-selling author Jennifer Weiner. We had just over 120 registered attendees, and you can watch that recording at spwmainline.com if you missed it. Please don't forget to register for our next event while you're there. Our next SPW trademark event will be on Wednesday, March 10th, with founder and Chief Inspiration Officer Jen Kronberger of Brave Leadership, how building cultures of belonging and compassion will change the world. This session will focus on cultivating leaders who lead from a place of compassion and empathy. The virtual world has brought this problem of isolation to the surface, and Jen will share how we can better drive engagement, happiness, and a positive work environment and beyond through connection. The Mainline Chamber of Commerce staff is prepared to continue working hard to bring people together for valuable connections and content on multiple fronts. You can continue to help us serve you by communicating with our staff, taking our surveys, and by interacting with us and others on social media using our hashtags, hashtag MLCC and hashtag SPWMainline. You can also visit our website and sign up for our emails to stay informed at mlcc.org. Before introducing today's guests, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. There is a chat and a Q&A function at the bottom of your screens. Please remember to submit your questions in the Q&A function so that it doesn't get lost in the chat function when it becomes time to get to them. Jaclyn will answer a few questions at the end of the event today, as well as join us in our breakout rooms. So in order to continue our efforts to connect individuals with one another through networking during today's program, we will be sending the attendee list from today to all attendees and sponsors with information on how you can identify up to 2 individuals that you may like to have a 15-minute conversation with. You will also receive a copy of the recording, which will always be available on spwmainline.com. We will be hosting these breakout sessions after the Q&A today. There will be a moderator in each room to direct the conversation. Thank you to our volunteers for helping with that today. Each attendee will have the opportunity to introduce themselves and their company. The moderator will then lead the conversation with a proposed question from today's program to engage in the dialogue between the group of individuals. The link for the meeting rooms will be provided in the chat function now and at the end of the formal program today. Please save this link now so that you can access it easily. We will begin the meeting all together before splitting everyone into groups. Please be patient while we wait for everyone to make the transition to join. I'd like to welcome and thank Jaclyn DeGregorio for being our featured speaker today. Jaclyn came highly recommended to provide a full presentation after participating as an expert facilitator for our Women Helping Women peer mentoring group last year. Jaclyn, we're really appreciative of your time and continued support of our SPW program, and we look forward to your presentation today and the dialogue that it's going to enhance later in the meeting rooms. At SPW, we are proud to partner with so many companies that live our mission and vision. 1847 Financial is one of our long-standing partners. Many times over the years, they have provided educational programs and support. It's my pleasure to introduce financial advisor Michelle Burkholder to today's program. Michelle has been a panelist in a few of these educational programs herself and has also participated in our Women Helping Women peer mentoring group. So it's my pleasure to introduce Michelle. Welcome, Michelle.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome. 1847, myself, Rosemary Dempsey, and Christine Hennigan have been a proud sponsor of SPW for several years and really enjoy the programming and the opportunity to meet other women. So today we are going to hear from Jaclyn DeGregorio. The topic could not be more appropriate. I don't know what's worse, 2020 or the fact that we've probably had the snowiest, coldest winter that we've had in a very long time. And so today she's going to talk about her book, half empty to half full, achieve a positive mindset to create growth and success. She's a best-selling author, and she encourages audience members to shift the perspective from seeing problems to seeing opportunities. Attendees will learn about how positive mindset directly correlates with the growth and success that experience in their personal and professional lives. Jaclyn is an in-demand speaker with experience on more than 100 stages across the U.S. and has been featured by Forbes, Good Morning Washington, and Thrive Global. So she's going to help us not see slippery roads and see snow angels today.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Michelle. I'm just going to share my screen so you can all see my presentation. Nicole, can you give me a nod just to make sure that I can see it? Okay, awesome. So we're going to dive in. When I was in second grade, I landed in a class with the hardest teacher in my school, and she was known for not giving any O's. O's stood for outstanding, and they were the highest grade that you could possibly earn in any class. So when I got into second grade, I decided that I was going to be the first second grader ever in history to earn an O in Mrs. Gutteridge's class. So I worked really hard throughout the school year, as hard as a second grader can, and report card day came. And when I saw my report card, I saw that I had 2 O's. Now, as an 8-year-old, I hadn't yet learned the lesson of being humble, so I told everyone. I told my friends' parents, my teachers, my grandma, my aunts and uncles, and within a few hours, pretty much everyone in my small town had heard that Jaclyn DeGregorio got 2 O's in Mrs. Gutteridge's class. I got home that day and my mom told me how proud she was of me and made me feel so happy for the hard work and commitment I had put in. So a few days later, my mom gets a call from Mrs. Gutteridge herself. And she asked my mom why Jaclyn was telling everyone that she got 2 O's when in reality, she only got proficients, just like every other student in the class. And my mom told her that she just didn't have the heart to tell me that those 2 O's were 0 days late and 0 days absent. Now, this story is incredibly important because there are 2 types of people in the world. There are people who see O's and there are people who see zeros. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. The people who see O's see the glass as half full. The people who see zeros see it as half empty. The people who see O's see opportunities. The people who see zeros see problems. Now, before we dive into this content, I want to preface this and let you all know that it's been a really hard year for a lot of people. And whenever I talk about positive mindset and positive thinking, some people tend to get their guard up. They say, well, Jaclyn, there's horrible things going on in the world. How can we think positive? And they think that positivity means, brushing things under the rug and not acknowledging what's going on in the world. So I just want to explain the definition that I teach of positive thinking to sort of frame this whole conversation. So what I see positive thinking as is acknowledging what's going on in the world, acknowledging the difficult things, the challenges in your life, choosing to feel them, feel the emotions associated with them, and choosing to see them in a better light. So it's not ignoring things. It's not brushing them under the rug. It's simply reframing them. And before we get into it, I want to explain to you why this is so important. Because what we're talking about today, has the power to change every single thing in your professional and personal life. Here's why. Your thoughts are at the top of the equation. They're the first thing that goes on a neurological level, and your thoughts create your words, right? So the thoughts you think, if you're thinking, boy, it's snowing outside, I'm miserable, this is a hard day, that's going to frame your words. Things like, man, today stinks, I don't want to go outside and shovel, it's so cold, right? And that's going to frame your actions. Maybe you do go outside, but you're really angry and you're really bitter and you're in a rush to get it done. And then the circumstance, you slip and you fall and you hurt your ankle, right? That all started from your thoughts. Whereas if you said, wow, it's so beautiful out, look how pretty the snow looks. And that framed words of, I'm going to bundle up, I'm going to dress really warm, and I'm going to go outside and shovel and really appreciate the beauty of the snow. And then that creates your actions. You're going to take your time shoveling, enjoy your time, maybe have a nice conversation with your neighbor, and then your circumstance. You feel happy, your sidewalk shoveled, and you're safe. And that's a funny example relevant to today, but that same example can be applied to anything in your professional life as well. Wayne Dyer says, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And that's the premise of what we're talking about today. Now, I want to take you back in my life 4.5 years to 2016 when I started my business as a college student from my dorm room at Georgetown University. I had this idea to create these plates that were going to encourage people to eat healthier. So I waitressed on campus for the first semester of my senior year of college, saving up all of my tips as a poor college student. And I was able to save up enough to make an order of my product that I created, these plates. I spent $10,000 on this product. Fast forward 1 year later, the only products that I had sold were to my family and to my friends, the people that love you and would support you in anything you do. Those were the only human beings interested in what I was doing. I was feeling so down. I was feeling so frustrated. I'm now graduated college, living at home with my parents. Nothing is working. And something inside of me told me to keep going. So I picked myself back up and I thought, well, what else could I try? So my next idea was to create an app. And I wanted to create this app where women could use it to build their wellness. They could eat healthier, have better exercise routines, feel better, do things like meditation, mindfulness. I had this big, vast, grand idea. So I raised $20,000 on Kickstarter, which might sound like a lot, but when you're building an app, those of you who might work in tech know it's not much. So I hired college student developers to build this app. Fast forward 1 more year, and we have 100 women beta testing this app. And during that time period, I received probably about 100 messages from women telling me that the app didn't work. It was crashing. They were in the middle of a workout and there were bugs. And here I am now 2 years into trying to build my dreams, trying to build this business. And I feel like a complete failure. I have spent over $30,000 and I have not made a single dollar in return. And at that time I was 22 years old. I wanted to give up. I felt like a complete failure. I felt like maybe I wasn't meant for this. All of my thoughts were negative. I was constantly focused on what isn't working. So I gave it my last shot. I tried to build the app 1 more time, and I gave it a chance with 2 different sets of developers. And it still didn't work. It wasn't fully functioning. I had no more money. I had no more confidence in myself. And I thought, it's time to throw in the towel. And many of you may know from your own experiences that sometimes when we're at a rock bottom, sometimes when we're going through really challenging, difficult times, we experience our biggest breakthroughs. And for me, that was turning to personal development, reading books about how I could choose better thoughts, how I could change my circumstances, because I knew that I was in control of my life, but my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how much action I did, no matter how many 12-hour days I worked, it wasn't working. Something needed to change. And I knew that it was my mindset. I knew it was my thoughts. And while I was doing all of this reading and this personal development, I came across one question that changed everything for me. That question was, what is working? And when I looked back, the first thing my brain went to is nothing is working. Nothing is going my way, right? Everything is happening to me, all of these bad things, nothing can go right. But I was reading this book and it said, force yourself to find something that is working, even if your brain tries to tell you that nothing is. So I sat down and I'm like, okay, Jaclyn, you have to figure it out. You have to look at this and think, what could possibly be working? And all of a sudden, it was like the floodgates opened. Everything my brain had been blocking me from even seeing started to rush in. And I realized that there was one thing that was working so well that my brain had completely ignored. And that thing for me was speaking. I had traveled to colleges across the East Coast to share my story and promote this app I was building. And while the app failed, the speeches didn't. I remembered all of the messages I had received, things like, Jaclyn, I hate my major. And the only reason I picked it is because my parents wanted me to. And after hearing your talk about you following your dreams at such a young age, I felt inspired to follow mine. And I'm going to change my major tomorrow and tell my parents. Or, Jaclyn, I didn't realize it, but after hearing your speech and you sharing your story of struggling with an eating disorder in college, I realized that I have an eating disorder too, and I'm going to get professional help. Thank you for sharing these powerful personal stories of people's lives I had changed, and my brain completely ignored it. Why? We have something in our brains called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Your RAS filters information on a daily basis. Why? Because we see so many things. My favorite example of this is, imagine you're driving down a highway and your brain screams in your head all of the billboards. I hate Steven Singer. Go Eagles, right? All of these things just yelling in your brain. You would be like, shut up, brain. It would be so annoying. We wouldn't even be able to focus on driving our cars, right? So that's why we were built with this operating system to filter. It's a great system. It can really help us. But here's the key. That system is programmed by you in your thoughts and beliefs. So if you have the thought or the belief that nothing is working, that nothing ever goes my way, then that's what you're going to see. That's what it's going to filter for. And that's what was happening to me until I forced myself to get out of the box and see what actually was working. So what was it that actually took me from this? Trying to sell these beautiful plates and building this app, making no money, losing money for, I believe it was 2016, 2017, 2018, 3 tax years, 3 tax returns. I'm pretty sure if you go a fourth, the IRS deems your business as a hobby. Thankfully, I didn't get to that place. What took me from here to here? Speaking on stages with thousands of people in the audience, giving a TEDx talk, writing 2 best-selling books, running a multiple 6-figure company at 25 years old. What took me from there to here was the shift into what is working. That one question changed my life, and it can change yours too. I want you to imagine for a minute how your personal goals might look different if you looked at what was working. Maybe you set a health and fitness goal for the year or a savings goal for the year. And maybe things aren't going exactly the way you planned because there's so many snowstorms, you haven't made it to the gym, or with the pandemic, maybe you're not getting as big of a bonus, or who knows what. What if you shift it to what is working in those areas and saw the times that you did go to the gym, the money you did save? And what about your professional life? How would your team show up differently if at every meeting you were the one, no matter if you are the manager of that team or you are the most entry-level person on that team, if you showed up looking at what was working, encouraging your team to see the things that were going well and how you could expand on those rather than the things that are stuck, right? It would change everything. So how do we do that? One thing I want you to understand about your brain is it's wired to protect you. And so when I start to talk about some of this positive mindset stuff, a lot of people start to shut down when they feel fear. But the thing that we often don't understand is that fear is actually a good thing. Fear keeps us alive. Fear is what alerts us when we're hungry and we need to eat, or when we're thirsty and we need to have some water, or maybe we're in a bad situation that we need to get out of. That fear protects us and keeps us safe. So, reality check. The fear is never going to go away, ever. No matter what you do, all human beings feel fear. No matter how many speeches I've given, I still feel fear before I step on stage. No matter how many times I've coached a client, I still feel fear about all kinds of things. Imposter syndrome, new goals, new up levels, new mindsets, new blocks, new fears. We're human. So the first thing I want you to do is thank your brain. Thank your fear for keeping you alive. Acknowledge that you're human and stop believing that fear means you should turn around. Fear means you shouldn't apply for the promotion. Fear means you shouldn't ask for the raise. Fear means you shouldn't make that shift or pivot. Fear means you shouldn't set that goal. What fear actually means is you care. I know for sure in my life, when I haven't felt fear at all and I've set a goal, it's because I didn't actually believe it was possible. Sometimes I convince myself, it's not even worth trying because it's not going to happen. So I don't feel any fear because I don't believe it's possible for me. But when I put myself out there, when I go for something big and I feel fear, that's because a part of me knows I can do it. A part of me knows I can create this fantastic project. I can land this amazing opportunity. So whenever you feel fear, I want you to see it as a good thing. Then what? How do we take this fear and channel it into something different? Well, it goes back to the theme of this whole conversation, shifting your perspective, seeing it in a different way. And how do we do that? Well, I call it the courage equation. This is what I gave my TEDx on. And the courage equation is simply this: courage equals belief greater than fear. So courage, by definition, is acting in spite of fear. And so again, it's not about removing the fear, but rather it's about adding belief. So when we talk about shifting our perspective, instead of focusing on how afraid you feel to apply for that promotion or to ask for that raise or to deliver this presentation, instead of focusing on that fear, instead focus on your belief. Focus on your confidence. Focus on building that. Focus on believing in yourself, trusting yourself, honoring yourself, right? That is so incredibly important. Now, I wanted to give you some tangible ways that you can build this belief, because I think a lot of times we hear a speaker, we go to an event, they're awesome. They're so inspiring. We love it. We're like, heck yes, I'm changing all my thoughts, Jaclyn. This is so great. And then life happens. We're incredibly overwhelmed. We're working from home during a pandemic. Our kids are home, from school. There's all kinds of things going on. And the problem with changing your thoughts is that 95% of them are subconscious, meaning you don't even realize you're thinking them. We think them over and over and over again, day after day after day. It's the same reason why sometimes you might get in the car and drive somewhere and you're like, how did I end up here? It's somewhere maybe you went for many years. Maybe it was a previous workplace or your child's school. And you didn't even mean to go there. You drove there on autopilot. Or maybe you did mean to go there, but you don't remember how you got there. You don't remember making any of the turns. That's because we think those same thoughts on a thought loop over and over and over again. So sometimes when we talk about changing our thoughts, it's great in theory, but we don't know how to apply it. We don't know how to raise our belief by changing our thoughts because we don't even know 95% of the thoughts we're thinking. And we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So don't worry, I got you covered. I've come up with a system that really helps, because remember that little graphic from the beginning where your thoughts are at the top? What comes after your thoughts? Your words. And are your words subconscious? No, we say them out loud. Our ears actually hear the words come out of our mouth. And so what I encourage all of my clients to do, and what I have personally done in my life, is start with changing your words. So I wanted to give you guys some help, make it a little bit easy to get started. So I've picked some common words that are limiting you in your personal and professional life on here. And I've put them on what I call the no list. I talk about the no list in a chapter of my book, Stop Getting in Your Own Way. And there's a much longer list that includes a variety of words in a variety of areas of your life. But I've picked a few that I think are really universal to talk about today. So the first one is struggling. So instead of saying, I'm struggling, I encourage you to say, this isn't quite right yet. Because when we say the word yet at the end, it means that we're going to figure it out. We just haven't yet. And even the thought of it's not quite right, we're lessening the severity of the problem. And when we lessen the severity of our problem, our belief that we can solve it is much stronger. So instead of saying struggling, try to say this isn't quite right yet. Now, the note I want to make when you first start implementing the no list, what may happen for you is you'll find yourself saying the words that you always say, like I'm struggling, or I'm stuck, or this is hard, right? Or similar variations of those phrases. And you'll hear yourself say it. Here's the key. Just reword it. Nobody even notices. We're all worried about what someone else is going to think. They're going to analyze what we're saying. Nobody cares, right? I'm struggling with XYZ. This thing isn't quite right yet. Just reword it. If you're talking to someone maybe who you can go on this mission with, maybe it's your whole team. Maybe you tell your team, hey, these are words we're not going to use. If we use them, we're going to instead swap with these phrases or similar phrases that feel aligned with you, seeing it in a different light, right? Maybe it's your husband or your wife or whoever, best friend, mentor. You can tell them, oops, I said struggling. That's on my no list. I'm going to reword that sentence and back up. But if not, just reword it. No one will even notice. Just keep talking. Acknowledge that you said it and then say it the way you want to say it. Speak what you want into existence. So the next one is stuck. Instead of saying I'm stuck, try saying my breakthrough is around the corner. Instead of focusing on where you are right now, you're focusing on where you're going. And remember why this is so important, because if you focus on you're stuck, you're only going to get more of being stuck. If you don't change the thought, it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle that never ends, and you're going to be stuck on being stuck, ironically, as that is. So instead, if you just change the one thought, you change the trajectory of that path. It's no longer a repeating cycle, but a circle that goes upwards in the direction of what you want for your life. The last one, hard. Hard things happen. I want to, again, this is going back to what I said in the beginning about how this is not toxic positivity. This is not ignoring what's going on. Hard things are actually serving us. They happen to teach us lessons, to redirect us, challenges, failures. Look at all the times I failed, and it led me to exactly where I was meant to be today, here with you, sharing this, right? So the hard things are serving us, and we can view them that way without feeling so negative about them. So for example, this project is filled with valuable lessons, or this challenge is strengthening me and my ability to do anything I set my mind to. That's something I teach in my TEDx talk, actually purposely doing hard things in order to raise that self-belief. So if you feel like you're lacking self-belief, if you feel like you're stuck in your comfort zone, some tips I give: take a cold shower, freezing cold, put your water on the coldest it goes. You can do it once, you can do it every day for a week. Some people do it every day forever and love it. One time is good for me. Or whenever I'm feeling down, whenever I'm having a hard day, whenever I feel like I'm stuck in my comfort zone, no matter how uncomfortable it is, I force myself to do it. And when I'm in that freezing cold shower and the water's falling on my body and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. I hate this. This is awful. This is so uncomfortable. I tell myself, Jaclyn, you can do hard things. You can do anything you set your mind to. You are so capable. Imagine what could change in your life if you showed up with that belief in yourself, that you're capable, that you can accomplish anything, no matter how hard it is, no matter how many roadblocks are in the way, that you are capable. It's incredibly powerful. But it's how you see hard that matters. Because if you see hard as, this is hard, I'm not good at hard things, I can't do this, or this is hard, I'm just going to give up, well, then that's the problem, right? We have to change the way we see the hard. And when we do that, everything changes. So I hope that what you take away is just the first step. You don't have to change your whole brain overnight. You're a human being and you have a human brain just like everyone in the world. But when you begin to change your thoughts and your words, and see things in a different light, when you begin to see the time that your car breaks down as a blessing, because maybe you would have gotten in an accident on your way to work, when you begin to see COVID as a blessing for the time you've been able to spend with your family, when you begin to see these challenges in your life as blessings in disguise, the blessings increase. You start to achieve more of your goals than you ever thought were possible. You start to feel more fulfilled, more happy, and create more success in your life. You can start today simply by taking the first step of changing those words, changing your language. Speak in a way that sets you up for what you want. Change that cycle of the same thing happening over and over again in your life, in your career, on your team, right? Change that cycle simply by starting with changing your words. Now, I have one thing to leave you with. I want to see if you were paying attention. It's one question, and the answer to this question is going to determine everything in your life. It's going to determine if you create the success, fulfillment, and happiness that you desire. Your answer to this, if you can hold your answer to this question for the rest of your life, there is not a single doubt in my mind that you will achieve everything your heart desires. Are you ready for it? I want you to answer. I can't hear you. I can't see you. So I got to trust you. Trusting others is a really good quality. I'm going to trust you because I like to see the good in other people. So I'm going to see the good in you right now and trust that you're going to say it out loud. The answer to this question, it's a yes or no question. It's really easy. Say it out loud to your computer because this is going to be powerful for you. Are you ready? Is this a 0 or a no? Thank you. Now it's time for our questions section, and I think Nicole's going to come on.
I am. I'm back. Thank you so much. Virtual applause, right? I just mentioned to everyone in the chat that you could submit your questions now. Sometimes that takes a little while to type. So Jaclyn, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to offer you all to raise your hand as well. There is a raise your hand function. And if you want to raise your hand and ask your question, I can allow you to talk. It looks like we have a question to start though, so I don't want to have long pauses. So I will ask you this question, and if anyone else has a question, either submit it to the Q&A box or raise your hand and I will actually allow you to talk. Don't worry, your video won't be on. You'll just be talking like this. So Jaclyn, what are some tips for daily mindset check-ins?
Love it. So I'm a huge believer in morning routine. I think it's incredibly important. I know many of you probably have to be online super early, 8 a.m., maybe even earlier for some of you. I get it. I run a business. I know what it's like. And I'm going to encourage you to find the time. 5 minutes. If you don't have 5 minutes to take for yourself, then there's a lot of reevaluating you want to do. And that's coming from a lot of love, right? 5 minutes for yourself. If you can take longer, I mean, I would love to see you dedicate an hour to yourself in the morning, but just 5 minutes is great. I'm going to give you some morning routine ideas. Here's the thing I think about the world of self-development, and I think that there's something in the industry I don't like, and that's that this is the way. What Jaclyn does is what every single person in this audience should do. No, I don't believe that. I believe that we're all unique. If you look at your different Myers-Briggs personalities and Enneagram and all these different things, we're all different. We have different DNA, right? We have different things that feel good for us. Some of us are introverted, some of us are extroverted, right? So there's lots of different practices you can do to work on your mindset in the morning to start your day. I'm going to lay out a few that you can follow. Feel free to take what you need. Take one, take a combination, try different ones, alternate them. There's different seasons of your life. Maybe you have more time for a morning routine without your commute right now, or maybe it'll be shorter in the future. So some things you can do. 1, gratitude. Daily gratitude every single morning for the past 2 years of my life. I've written down 5 things I'm grateful for. Sometimes I give myself off on the weekends, but at least Monday to Friday, starting a work day, 5 things. Look for things that have happened in the past 24 hours, not just my family's awesome. That's wonderful that your family's awesome. But the point of this gratitude practice is to see the good in every day, because it's often easier for us to look back and say, I'm grateful, I'm happy. but man, the snow, and we don't have any food, and we can't even order takeout because we can't even drive anywhere, blah, 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 right? All these things, right? See the good in every day. So 5 things that have happened in the past 24 hours, write them down. You don't need to spend any money. You can get a plain normal notebook for that. Second thing, mind food. I believe that the same way that our bellies get hungry and we need to eat, we need brain food. I don't believe that some people are born motivated and some people aren't, that it's just a fixed trait. I don't believe that. People always say, Jaclyn, you're so motivated. I call BS on that. I feed my brain to be motivated every day. So I listen to podcasts every single morning, even if it's 5 minutes of a podcast while I am brewing my coffee, while I am eating my breakfast. I hope you're eating in the morning. I hope you're enjoying some kind of drink. You don't have to drink coffee. You could drink hot lemon water, tea. I don't care what it is, matcha. Do something for yourself in the morning and listen to something that's uplifting, that's inspiring, that makes you feel good. If you like me, I have a podcast called Spark Your Light. There's lots of awesome podcasts out there. If you need recommendations, feel free to message me on Instagram. I'll share with you some of my favorites. So that's another thing. Listen. You can also try audiobooks that resonates with you. Third thing, write down your goals. You want to get your mind excited about what you're creating in your life. I encourage you to write them as if they've already happened. This is a little trick for your reticular activating system, because remember, it filters based on what you give it to filter for. So if you tell it that these great things have already happened, so I write my goals in the form of thank you for the 100 students in my course. Thank you for the 10,000 sales of my book. Thank you for, and when you do that, your reticular activating system looks for opportunities to create those things in your life. It notices them. They were always there. It's the best analogy. If you've ever wanted a certain type of car, you've been like, man, I want to get a red Tesla. And all of a sudden, everyone in the world drives a red Tesla. No, they did not sell 50,000 overnight in your neighborhood. Your Raz is now noticing them. They've always been there. The same thing happens with opportunities. They'll feel like they're falling into your lap. The perfect opportunity on your team to try this new project, to lead this thing. It was always there. You didn't see it. So writing your goals every morning, especially writing them in the form of as if they've already happened. Now, the kind of caveat to this is that sometimes when people do that, they feel even more removed from the thing that they want, because they're like, man, let's say they say like, I want to be vice president, and they're entry level, just say, right? And that feels so removed from that. I'm never going to be able to get there. That's probably not serving them, because it's making them feel even more lack. So instead, there's something that you can do called like a bridge affirmation, where you can say like, I'm in the process of this thing I want. Or you can think about what's called the ladder of believability. That's something I first learned from Catherine Zankina, and it's a concept that's really helped me. You can put your big goal at the top of the ladder and then these small incremental goals throughout the ladder, and you can climb the ladder. So your first goal, what might be, I want XYZ promotion. I want to go to this job next, or I want to perform really well on this project. More short-term things as opposed to your biggest dream. So those 3 are my 3 awesome morning practices. Some other ones that people do and I occasionally do that aren't non-negotiables for me, but work for others: meditation, something called EFT tapping. If you haven't heard of it, search it on YouTube. It's really powerful. Hypnosis is also a good one for rewiring your subconscious mind. Anything that really makes you feel good. Exercise is great. Take a walk. Listen to, you could do 2 things at once. Listen to a podcast while you're on a walk, right? That's checking 2 birds with 1 stone. So feel into it, but those are the morning practices that I recommend. You also want to check in with your mindset throughout the day. So if there's something that's absolutely stopping you from getting your work done in the middle of the day, stop. You might want to process an emotion, do some deep breaths, feel into it and release it. You can imagine the positive things you want kind of flowing into your body. I imagine like bright white light, breathe it in, breathe out the heavy thing, breathe out the stress, breathe out the comment that someone made that rubbed you the wrong way, right? Breathe it out, let it go. Journal on it for 5 minutes, take a break in the middle of the day. It's okay, because it's not serving you to show up with that energy and that negative mindset for your coworkers, for the people that you lead, for the people that you report to. So that's another thing. Just check in whenever you feel like, hey, I can't get my job done and be my full potential. Just work through whatever's coming up. It could take 2 minutes. Those are the things that I would say.
Awesome. So there's another really great question, because so Xenia Scott, who is our director of membership, has posed the question, how do you help to create positive thoughts for others in the workplace?
Yeah, I love that. There's a wonderful book I would recommend to everyone if you haven't read it. It's called The Energy Bus, and it's specific to the workplace, and it's really good. So I would highly recommend any person no matter what level, and you want to create positive thoughts for others, read that book. But some takeaways from it that I love is essentially that you get to be the example and be the energy that everyone else is feeding off of. So energy is contagious. We all know this. Right now, you might be feeling excited because you've been in my energy for 40 minutes. You've been in this bright, energized ball of sunshine energy. So you might feel that. You also might feel, I don't know, if your husband comes home from work and had a bad day and is miserable, you might feel that, right? We're very empathetic as human beings, and we can feel other people's energy. So if you are the person who's bringing the positive energy, who's making the comments in the meeting, well, I know that we didn't hit this goal, but I want to point out this wonderful thing we learned from this process and how that's going to actually set us up for more success in the future. If you're that beam of light for others, it's contagious. It's impossible for it not to be. Another thing that they talk about in the energy book is actually like having a conversation about it. They go as far as like they print these tickets, they go really far. If you don't want to get that far into it, just having a conversation with your team saying, hey, one thing that I want to commit to as your manager is I want to commit to us seeing things in a more positive light, seeing the good, even in the times that maybe our team is struggling, not hitting goals. I want to see the lessons. And I'm not sure that we do a very good job of it in the past. And that's on me. I'm your leader. So I'm going to be the first one to start doing it. I encourage you to follow along. Just kind of setting that example for them. It really does rub off. It's incredibly contagious. And what you'll find is that sometimes it polarizes people, because the people who really can't get behind your energy, they're going to be like repelled from it. That's a part of the process. Sometimes you have to kind of allow in the people who really want this, who really care about the future of the company and the goals, right? And those people are going to be drawn to you. So trust those people. And sometimes if some other people aren't, sometimes you can try to talk to them, try to have a conversation and do the best you can with that. But just know that the right people are going to be drawn to you, and you'll kind of know who's on your energy bus, as they call it in the book.
I like the energy bus. So I'm going to do one more question that we have here so that we can get into our breakout rooms and allow everyone to kind of discuss together. Who was your role model or mentor that you model your public speaking after?
Oh gosh, so many. So I love this question. I think role models and mentors are incredibly important. What I love about role models and mentors is that they set an example of what's possible for you, and you can see yourself in them. And I find that a lot of people, and I just posted about some Instagram story before this, I said that 2 years ago, I was at this event when Heather Monahan spoke, and I loved her on stage. I was like, wow, she's awesome. And this was when I had really just started speaking professionally. This was after that breakthrough of, I'm going to be a professional speaker. I'm going to do all these things. And my thoughts were, wow, Heather's so great. And I can do that too. I can be that great too. How inspiring is she? Whereas I think a lot of people tend to think, wow, look at her. She's so much better than me. She's older than me. She's more experienced than me, blah, 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 all the negative self-talk, right? And so I think mentors, in one sense, or role models, let's say people you don't know, let's start there, like role models that you don't know, that you see, that you watch their content online, you might watch their speeches on YouTube. That's what I used to do with people I loved. And I will tell you who those people are. But to preface it, I think it's really important when you do that to have the mindset of, wow, that person is so great. And this could be at your company too. So if you want to have XYZ position someday, you can look up to that person who's in that position and think, wow, they're so awesome. And I could do that someday. I can be just like that, right? That energy is so different than I'm not good enough. This person has more XYZ than me. This person's smarter than me. This person's better at math than me, or whatever. That's what I hear a lot. So that's the first thing, the people that I loved. So Jess Ekstrom is a public speaker, and she has a book called Chasing the Bright Side. She was the first person I found that spoke and was actually paid to speak. And I thought it was mind blowing. So I took her course. I started following her. I love her. Then I found Rachel Hollis, and I would watch her speeches on YouTube. And I would think to myself, I can do this. I can give a speech just like that. And I would get so fired up about it. So that was awesome. And I've hired a lot of mentors. I've hired a lot of business coaches, life coaches along the way for specific things that I'm working on. So there's been many, but that's kind of how I first started seeing myself in other people.
Well, awesome. Yay. Another virtual round of applause. Thank you all for your great questions. Luckily, Jaclyn has agreed to travel over to the breakout rooms with us and be a moderator. Like I said, we're going to pose a question in that room. Before we jump over, I just want to have a few more reminders. So we will be sending a recording of today's event along with the attendee list for all of those introductions and an event survey. So please remember to check your email. You can register for all of our SPW events at spwmainline.com. Our next event is on March 10th. As always, please let myself or anyone of our staff members at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce know what we can do to help you and or your business. And thank you for joining us for the webinar today. And thank you again to Jaclyn, and thank you again to Michelle for providing our introduction today. You may go to the meeting link now, and please be patient. My colleague Stacy Reimel is going to assist with the transition. So we're going to wait for everyone to go over probably about a minute or so, and then we'll get started into deeper conversations. So go ahead and click on the link in the chat box, and you should leave this session and go over there. And I'm going to copy and paste it back in for anyone that may have missed it in the beginning. There it is, one more time. Okay, looks like a lot of people are going over quickly. You guys are getting used to our format. That's awesome. I'm gonna actually stop recording too.